I would like to open the public portion of the October 18th, 2023 Richfield Park Board of Education meeting. The time is now 7:33. Let's begin with a salute to the flag. Mr. Bison, can you please read the Open Public Meetings Act?
Yes, the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and to attend the meetings of the public bodies at which any business affecting their interest is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provisions of this act, the Richfield Park Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be published by having the date, time, place, therefore posted in a Bergen Record, Star Ledger, Municipal Building, Board of Education's offices, and district website. Public participation will be conducted both in person and virtually through Zoom. All public will be muted throughout the meeting. Public participation comments are limited to 5 minutes. The public will be able to both speak and be seen by the board participating virtually, telephonically, via Zoom. Individuals participating virtually that wish to make comments during the public participation will need to raise their hand by clicking the blue hand icon at the bottom of the Zoom window. Individuals participating by telephone that wish to make comments during the public participation will need to hit *9 on their telephone to raise their hand. The business administrator, board secretary will then unmute the individuals one at a time to speak in order that their hand was raised.
Thank you. May I please have a roll call?
Yes. Mr. Cathcart.
I'm here.
Mr. Cooney.
Present.
Ms. Kraft.
Here.
Mr. Feitros.
Here.
Mr. Gomes.
Here.
Ms. McNeil.
Here.
Ms. Rodriguez. Ms. Velez.
Yes.
Ms. Orth.
Present.
President Martinez.
Here. We have quorum. Trustee Velez, would you please move the minutes from the June 14th, June 28th, and July 19th board meetings?
I would like to move the minutes for June 14th, June 28th, and July 19th board meetings.
I'll second.
All right, can I have a roll call?
Mr. Cathcart.
Yes.
Mr. Cooney.
Yes.
Ms. Kraft.
Yes.
Mr. Feitros. Mr. Gomes.
Yes.
Ms. McNeil.
Yes.
Ms. Velez.
Yes.
Ms. Orth.
Yes.
President Martinez.
Yes. Okay, we have one correspondence from the public, an email from Ms. Schmidt with questions regarding 2 agenda items from the last meeting and the field house, and Dr. V responded. Let's now move to committee reports, buildings and grounds. Trustee Cooney.
Good evening, everyone. B&G committee report. We met on 10/16. We have feedback for the ROD grants update. The PEC letters have been received for 3 HVAC building locations. That's the high school, Grant School, and Lane School. Those are the 3 that we have right now. Pre-construction DS mechanical upgrades at the high school. Required site visit by the contractor on November 7th, 2023. The committee reviewed the note pre-construction meeting that was held. And the business office tables for the upcoming project. Grand School PTA, in agreement with the building principal, the PTA at Grant School wishes to purchase a new storage container to help Grant School have another secure location to store material to free up space within the school. An update on the final punch list items regarding the food service room and the STEM labs. The punch list of outstanding items is still underway at each location with Solutions Architects and the business office overseeing the remaining completion items. The district continues to make needed safety repairs and improvements to meet the pending QSAC inspections that are approaching. And the Village Health Department did request the recent Viking Pest Control Service reports from the high school, beginning with January 2023 through September 2023. We have the next meeting is scheduled for November 13th, and the meeting adjourned at 6:37. Thank you.
Thank you, trustee Cooney.
I'm sorry, 7:37, sorry.
Thank you. Policy trustee Velez will be filling in.
The Policy Committee met on October 10th, 2023. Several important topics were discussed. Dr. Vespignani shared an update on the district goals action plan development and provided an update on the revised use of facilities policy. Policy Alert 231 was discussed in detail, covering various policies that are on today's agenda for first and second reading. The meeting was adjourned at 6:01 p.m.
Thank you. And, faculty and programs, trustee Kraft.
Hi, good evening, everyone. The Faculty and Programs Committee met on October 10th. Present were Dr. Vespignani, Assistant Superintendent of Schools, Striglia, Board President Dr. Martinez, myself, Trustee Rodriguez, Trustee Velez, and Vice President Orth. We discussed the items on the agenda for today's meeting, including a review of the district goals and action plan, which include PLCs that are going to be launched across the district. Those are professional learning communities. Discussion of the three-part objective rollout in K through 6. We discussed the SNAP initiative and the multi-systems, tiered systems of support, and the administrative team presentation that was given to give a big picture of clear learning paths for students in connection with our district goals. The Gifted and Talented program was also discussed, and the need to have a consistent universal screener put in place for that program, as well as a consistent universal screener for INRS and basic skills programs. We also discussed the preschool. We were happy to learn that the gold assessment training on gather, need, and drive instruction has been approved, and a consultant from Creative Curriculum will be coming in to train teachers and paras in the preschool program. And lastly, we discussed the Social Justice Subcommittee. We talked, Dr. V shared that he spoke at length with Dr. Ferraro regarding the scope of work that this committee will undertake, and we will start our next meeting with that at the top of our agenda. We are meeting again on November 8th.
Thank you for that lovely report. Finance and Insurance, trustee Gomes.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. The Finance Committee met on Monday, October 16th. All members were present, including the superintendent, assistant superintendent, and the BA. We discussed the district's goals and action plans to achieve them. We talked about the CTE portion of the action plan, and the administration is looking to hire a CTE supervisor, but it was not included in this year's budget. We also discussed the INRS program about throughout the district and the need to restructure it. The administration is also looking to put a universal screen in place for all INRS referrals. We also discussed a restructuring of the business office. The superintendent is looking to create a new director of operations position, and he will be providing more details about this in his report. With the creation of the new position and restructuring of the district, we will see a savings of over $200,000, which will be spent on the needs in the high school. Next, we discussed the ROD grants and parking grants. The district has received letters indicating that 3 of our ROD grants were approved. These grants are primarily for HVAC updates, but we will need to go back out for bids as costs have increased. On the agenda tonight is a resolution for us to decline a Perkins grant. This is because the previous administration did not complete the Perkins grant application on time. It is the intent of the current administration to apply for the grant in a timely manner next year. Finally, we discussed the school year 2022-23 audit. The interim BA is in the process of completing the bank reconciliations for June. We'll be meeting with the treasurer to go over it. Once they complete the June reconciliations, he'll be able to complete the July and August reconciliation also and get the audit started. That's my report. Thank you.
Thank you, trustee Gomes. Personnel, trustee Orth.
The Personnel Committee met on Tuesday, October tenth. Present were trustees Cooney, Kraft, President Martinez, Dr. Vespiani, Assistant Superintendent Ms. Triglia, and myself. Dr. V presented proposed district goals. He spoke more specifically about the second goal regarding human resources and some of the items he intends to include in the action plan. He advised he plans to provide updates to the board via the committee structure quarterly. We discussed open positions in the district, including 2 elementary school leave positions and an instructional coach position that is needed for the pre-K program. Dr. V shared his plans for some restructuring of some positions in the district, which he will include in his superintendent's report. We discussed staffing needs in the transportation department. Dr. V will meet with Mr. Bisek and report back at a future meeting. Dr. V shared his recommendations for winter coaching positions and the updated procedure utilized to fill those positions. We discussed the need for substitute positions for various district personnel, and Dr. agreed to investigate and report back at a later meeting. We also discussed the sidebar agreement with the teachers union regarding leave requests, which is included in tonight's agenda. Our next meeting will be held on Monday, November 6th.
Thank you. We will now move on to the superintendent's report.
Thank you, President Martinez, and good evening, board, community, and staff members. Great to be with you this evening. I'd like to first start by hearing our student liaison report and to welcome back Olivia, and please introduce Shay for the first time. So if you could please give us your report, that would be great.
Good evening. My name is Shay Lucino, and I'm the student body president.
And my name is Olivia Locarno, and I'm the student body vice president. We are the student representatives at the board meetings this school year. We would like to give you an update on some of the activities that are taking place or took place already at the senior high school. The student government is currently running a breast cancer fundraiser by selling pink lemonade for $1. Just today after school, we made a profit of about $60 in 15 minutes. We will be running this every day after school until the end of October. There's also a push to get qualified students to register to vote. We brought in the League of Women Voters to help with the process, as well as putting up signs around the school for students to scan a QR code, which prompted them to a registration website. We'd also like to congratulate our new 7th grade student government officers who were elected to their respective positions this past month. President Ariana Zaman, Vice President Arel Say, Secretary Eric Lee, Treasurer Johan Arze. And a big congratulations to our new 9th grade student government officers who were also elected this past month. President Felipe Sepulveda, Vice President Cyan Harewood, Secretary Jaslyn Moncia, Treasurer Jenny Lynn. The student government has also planned a trip to one observatory in New York City. This will take place spring of 2024. All updates will be provided on our student government website, which is currently under construction.
Senior nights have been important to our student body all throughout our fall sports season. Football, cheering, volleyball, tennis, and soccer teams have been honoring the efforts of all the seniors and the contributions they have made throughout their athletic careers to their respective programs. The Future Health Professionals Club sponsored the first blood drive on October 11th in the auxiliary gym. Over 85 students and staff combined signed up to donate. Of those 85, 65 individuals were registered and 39 pints of whole blood were collected, as well as 3 Power Red donations. Whole blood can help many types of patients, especially those undergoing surgery and trauma patients. Power Red donations pack double the impact because the automated procedure collects a concentrated donation of red cells that can help twice as many patients. Power Reds are especially helpful to trauma victims, newborn babies, and sickle cell patients. The Future Health Professionals hope to run a second blood drive in the spring. The Key Club had a booth at the health fair, which presented what Key Club's goals are. They're an international student-led organization that gives opportunities to students to provide service. They hope to provide opportunities to build character and develop leadership. They spread their accomplishments and impact to adults to understand the importance of the organization. Throughout the fair, students also volunteered whenever help was needed. Some volunteers even donated blood and helped at the blood donation site. Upcoming, our 7th grade and 8th graders will have their annual fall ball dance next Thursday evening. Juniors and seniors will participate in assembly sponsored by Little Ferry and Richard Park Police Departments. Author and speaker Matthew Bocci will share his story about his battle with loss, addiction, recovery, and healing. Parents are invited to Mr. Bocci's evening presentation on Wednesday, October 25th at 7 p.m. at Memorial School in Little Ferry. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Shay. Thank you, Olivia, so much for joining us this evening. It's understood with all your homework and extracurricular activities that you may wish to exit the meeting at the end of my superintendent's report and prior to the data presentation that Ms. Triglia will be providing. So again, thank you so much for your report. As a follow-up to our last board meeting in regard to some of the feedback that was received pertaining to some issues in accessing some of the agenda attachments, the board docs link has been shared instead of the PDF version, and I'm hopeful that this has rectified that for everyone. This is the very reason that boards utilize board docs, as it can be easily accessible through the link, and the PDF version would no longer be needed as a result. Pleased to provide an update from the Home and School Connection Committee. We most recently met on Monday, September 25th, and we are our first Parent Academy event. A flyer was distributed to all families, messenger for our Family Literacy Night to be held on Thursday, November 2nd. More details to follow, and we hope to see you there. I'd like to share some exciting news across our schools. At the K-6 level, students have been enjoying several activities during the Week of Respect, including days with various themes. Our 6th grade students have served as leaders by pushing into some of the lower grades to engage students in conversations about respect, which is really great to hear. We recently had Fire Prevention Week, and a big shout out to our RP Fire Department for visiting our students in pre-K through 4 about safety protocols and what to do in the event of an emergency. Students were invited to take an up-close look at the fire truck. This week, students are currently participating in various activities as we recognize School Violence Awareness Week. And specifically at Grant School, we welcomed Officer Jensen, who has officially joined the SLEO. Thank you to the RP Police Department for your ongoing support. At Lincoln School, the large playground has received a refresh of the wood carpet. Also, students in 5th and 6th grades had their first ROAR class meeting on October 6th on respect, motivation, and attendance. And then Roosevelt, the donations for candy pouring in anticipation for the annual PTA Trunk or Treat event on October 28th with a rain date of October 29th. For book fair was a huge success, and students had the opportunity to shop for some reading material of interest. And at our junior senior high school, students through 8th through 11th grade participated in the PSAT on October 6th at no cost. 7th graders received team building and guest speaker impact artist who presented Marco Santini, who shared a message of spreading love and happiness through art and purposeful environments. Our 12th graders recently enjoyed a motivational guest speaker, Ricardo Dale, who shared a message of resilience, personal responsibility, and the importance of higher education. And as noted in the students' report, our fall athletic teams have been celebrating senior night. On tomorrow, the girls' soccer will play under the lights at 7 p.m., and we hope you can join. In regard to the agenda item pertaining to a job description that I am recommending to the board entitled District Operations Manager, this comes by way of taking a look at the current vacancy that we have for the Assistant Business Administrator position in collaboration with Mr. Biasic and Mr. Egan in regard to and in effort to maximize that particular FTE, as was done with some other positions in my time here. We're looking to move this position forward. This is a job description that has been approved by the county superintendent because it requires it and has been fully processed through the board committee structure so that board members have been made aware. Essentially, what the recommendation here is to move this job description forward so that we can post tomorrow, have an interview process over the course of the next few weeks when the posting closes. As a result, depending on the candidate pool, our objective is to make a recommendation to the board on the November 15th meeting. As a result of this position, and as noted in the job description, it would not only have some oversight in terms of business operations and assisting the interim BA, but it will also have direct oversight of facilities and the technology departments. As a result, in November, there would be a recommendation to reduce those director positions, as this position would have oversight of those departments. And the sole purpose here is for efficiency and streamlining and reducing administrative positions. And with the funds realized from this potential move, we would then be building in some programs for our students and some positions. I'm in collaboration with our high school administration, looking at the details of what those positions would entail. And it's expected that we'd be making recommendations for job descriptions, albeit revised or new. But the idea is to build SEL-related programs, mental health and wellness programs for our K-12 students and also specifically at the junior, senior high school. As I've completed my first 90 days, I've been doing a lot of listening and fact-finding. And I have continuously heard about some of the needs for these positions and programs to best support our students. And this is the path in order for us to do this year. In regard to the HIB statement, as noted in my superintendent's report, I respectfully submit the HIB report that was presented to the board in executive session. Superintendents are required to report the 22-23 school self-assessment for determining grades under the Anti-Bullying Bill of Rights Act. Each school safety team is required to complete the self-assessment, and the superintendent is responsible for presenting each completed self-assessment at a public board meeting. It's important to note that there have been required updates to this year's self-assessment, which reflect the 2022 amendments to the Bill of Rights, effective for the 22-23 school year. Schools must now report the number of times a preliminary determination was made not to conduct a HIB investigation. So in terms of the 22-23 self-assessment as completed by the school safety teams, the Grant School has completed a self-assessment of 73. I should note that that is out of a total of 78. In the previous year, the total self-assessment was 72. At Lincoln this year, or excuse me, for 22-23 was 73, and in 21-22 was 72. At Roosevelt, the 22-23 self-assessment grade was 75. The prior year of 21-22 was 72. And at the junior senior high school for 22-23, the self-assessment score was 74, and the previous year in 21-22 was 73. In terms of the 2022-2023 preliminary determination, there were 3 at Grant School, 0 at Lincoln, 1 at Roosevelt, and 3 at the junior senior high school. And to conclude my superintendent's report, I'm pleased to welcome back Ms. Carmela Triglia, our Assistant Superintendent of Schools, who will be presenting NJSLA presentation in back-to-back board meetings. We've tasked her with analyzing a significant amount of data, and we really appreciate your efforts in pulling this data together in collaboration with our administrator teams. And I wanted to just point out and welcome our principal team who have been kind enough to join us this evening for the presentation. Mr. Queda, Ms. Cavens, Dr. Ferraro, and Ms. Hernandez, thank you for taking some time to join us for this important presentation. So at this time, I can excuse our student liaisons. Thank you so much as Ms. Carmela prepares to present the NJSLA data.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you again for being here and for tuning in to listen to the presentation. There are quite a few slides, and so my hope is that although we won't be taking a deep dive into the data because it's a lot, the presentation will be posted online. So if anyone wants to take a look, you'll be able to go through and should be looking for, or things like that. So tonight's presentation is on the New Jersey Student Learning Assessment. It assesses math and ELA in grades 3 through 9, and Algebra 1, and for some students in 9th grade geometry. So as I stated, you have students in grades 3 to 9 who are taking the test. I kind of went ahead, so there we go. That's 3 slides down. All students are required to take the NJSLA. An interesting fact that I like to point out are that our English language, the student learning assessment. And what's interesting is students who enroll into the district June 1st of the previous school year can be ELA exempt. So that means that they have to be enrolling into an American school for the very first time, June 1st of the that also means if they come during the testing window, 2 days in, and they don't speak any English, they are ELA exempt only, but still have to participate in the math and in the science. Math can be offered in Spanish, so the students who speak Spanish can take the assessment in that language as well as if they speak any other language. The assessment is only in English. The directions can be read in their native language, and they're allowed tools like a word-to-word dictionary. So that's just food for thought so that you're aware that a student who enters the country for the very first time this assessment. Students with disabilities are also required to take the assessment. So students with IEPs, if there is a significant disability and they meet the criteria, take the dynamic learning maps, the DLM. We would have been presenting on that data tonight, but because there's less than 10 students allowed to share that into the public, the number has to be greater than 10. The slide you're looking at currently is our participation rates. So what the total number of students who participated in language arts and the total number of students who participated in the math. You'll notice things like in the total number, you have 128 students, for example, in grade 4, 6 took the DLM. So those 6 students come out from the count. And then if you move into the ELA column, 2 more students exempt because of the time frame. So that brings us down from 128 to 120. Of the 120, 118 participated. It could have been a refusal for the 2 who did not. But the idea is that in order to meet the QSAC compliance, you need 95% participation rate. And so in every So the way that the PowerPoint, the presentation is did now moving forward is it's broken into 3 parts. We have NJ, SLA, ELI. We're going to go into NJ, SLA, math, and then we'll go into the science portion. But the slides are set up identical. So the idea is as we move through, we'll get through the ELA, and then in the math, we can go a little quicker, and then by the next, a little easier. So ELA, you have 2 units. Each unit for grade 3 is 75 minutes. For grades 4 through 9, it's 90 minutes. In some instances, school districts are might be eligible for a field test in ELA, which would give them then 3 units. That is not the case for us. We had 2 units last school year. The rule for the assessment is you cannot give more than 2 units in one day. That is the max. So you could do both units in one day for ELA. You could do 1 unit of ELA and 1 unit of math, but that's the max that students can do in one day. What you're looking at here are the for math and ELA. There are 5 levels, 1 being the lowest, did not yet meet expectations. Level 2 is partially, level 3 is approaching, level 5 is exceeding. Level 3, we consider you may have heard the term the bubble kids. Those are the kids who are right on the cusp of meeting those expectations. So the range that you see, a level 4 meeting expectations is between a 750 and a 798. So if you fall in that range, you're meeting expectations. And then a level 3, you could be right at the cusp of meeting those expectations. So it's important to note that teachers may look at that data and say, all right, if I just work a little bit on certain skills, we can definitely move them into the proficiency range. Slides. This slide was rounded to the nearest whole number, and what you're looking at scores district-wide. So it's all 3 elementary schools combined for grades 3 through 6, and then 7, 8, and 9 is all students. The 9th grade, 108 students that tested, so just kind of go through, and then it gives you a breakdown of those students, how many were, how many fell in the level 1 proficiency level 2, and so on. And there's also a comparison from the district to state. So if we look at, give me 1 second. Thank you. If we look at level 4, where it's meeting expectations, you'll see for grade 3, 34% of our students met the expectations at a level 4. In comparison, 37% met it at the state level. And the same for level 5, you have 3% who met and 5% who exceeded. So when you're looking at this table within itself, that's how you would interpret this. On the next slide, it's the same data. It's just that instead of doing all of the levels, the next slide is looking at students who met or exceeded, and it's in comparison to the state. So this is just a nice visual to show you that we're pretty much in line with where the state is performing, and in some instances, we surpassed those expectations, which is nice. I'm just going to give you like about 10 more seconds to look at the slide. Okay, on this slide, what you're looking at is, again, students who are meeting or exceeding expectations across the elementary schools. So, for example, this is in my, how do I get, there we go. For grade 3, Grant School is at 41.9% meeting or exceeding. At Lincoln is 35, at Roosevelt is 33, and then we compare it to the district, it's 34, and the state is 46. The highlighted areas are areas that are well beyond or above the state average. But please note that there's so many factors as to why scores might be where they're at. And so Dr. V and I are working with the administrative team to really come up with the right questions to ask and the responses and the why. In some instances, it might be that you have a class of 12 students and another class of 25 students. And so, when you're talking about class sizes, those that the way that students interpret is presented. So, as we work through and analyze the data, those are the questions we ask ourselves. This is the same data again, visual, going from Grant, and each slide moves in this order. So when you see the slide again in the math, in Roosevelt District State. So you can see how we all kind of, again, are in line with where the state is. And then where we're not, that's where we'll talk about the next steps and how to address that. So this slide, this is a lot of numbers here, and it's very small. And so this is why it's important for us to post it on the website. What we're doing here is we're required to present on the demographics. And so there's 3 groups. The subgroups are student, do they have a 504? Are they economically disadvantaged? So the first, we move in the order. So at this slide, if you decide to go back and look at this tomorrow, on this particular slide, it's structured by the grades 3 through 5. The middle school is clustered, 6th grade is clustered into middle school because middle school is considered 6 through 8. Even though it's 3-6 in our district, the structure, but you'll see that those students are clustered together there, and then our high school students in 9th grade, giving you the percentages of where the students fell in each category between a 1 and 5 of who's meeting and who's exceeding. So if you want to go back and look at this with time and on your own screen, that's how this slide is read. On the next slide, again, it's the same, it's the subgroup, but rather than clustering them by grade levels, these are students across the board, our 3 through 9 students and how they performed by race. And at the bottom is the key for the level. Now we're looking at the gender. Again, it's broken down the same way, grade level span, telling you the number of females versus males, and so on, and how they performed within that subgroup. So again, if you want to take a look at this, you would be looking at your percentages per group. This next slide, again, as I said, is presented the same data. It's by gender, but instead of doing it by grade spans, these are all students in grades 3 through 9. So quickly, just let me know, but. Okay, and then the last one, as we said before, this is the subgroup of by students are multilingual language learners, or if they're special ed, if they're economically disadvantaged, and that sort. So again, it tells you the total number of students that fall within that category and where they fell in the levels of proficiency. And this is again broken down rather than by grade span. This is all students K through, I'm sorry, 3 through 9 subgroup. These next few slides are comparison data between 22, the spring of 22 and spring of 23. So it's going to be very colorful, but there is, it's just to provide a visual. The colors don't necessarily mean anything other than just giving you a visual. So this slide, what you're looking at is you're taking level 1. If you look at the first column, this is your level 1 of 2022, your level 1 of 2023. Then we go level 2, 2022, level 2, 2023. The next 2 columns are the total combined percentages of how many students fell in level 1 and level 2. So for example, in the first one, we have 40% of our student population that fell in level 1 and level 2 in grade 3 of the 2022 spring data. In 2023, we have 31% who fell in that. So you'll see here, it's positive. The green does mean it's growth. We have an increase of 8%, 8.3% from, meaning our number grew smaller in levels. So that was really great to see. On the flip side, if we look at 4th grade, where we begin looking at level 4 and 5, level 4, 2022, level 4, 2023, those last 2 columns before the pink column is the combined proficiency levels between 4 and 5. Those are meeting and exceeding expectations. So in 2022, 35.5% of students in 4th grade met those expectations. In 23, 41.5 hit that. So you saw a growth of 6%. You can obviously that means that there was a little bit of a decrease. And if that's okay. If you see the green in the changes between levels 1 and 2, that means that your number got smaller. If the red is there, it means your number got bigger from 22 to those ranges. Does that make sense? This is taking this previous data, if we're taking those 2 pink columns here, what we're doing is we're saying, okay, in our district, this is what you just saw on the previous slide, and this is how the state was. Sorry. So you'll see the state also decreased in 3rd grade, where they saw an increase in most of their levels in 2023. We have seen some decreases, but it's not a significant amount. Okay, this is the very colorful slide, but what this is it's the cohort. So what you're doing here is you're following your 3rd grade from 2020 to the 3rd grade level 1 were not meeting. So those students in 3rd grade were at 19% not meeting. In 4th grade, that went down, which means it improved. So if we look at our meeting and exceeding expectations, 6% of students exceeding an ELA in 3rd grade. That same cohort of students, now you had 11.8 exceeding. So in some instances, our bottom 2 numbers got smaller, and maybe our level 3 approaching got bigger. And so you might see, you know, you have to kind of look at all the levels to see where there was growth and where there wasn't. So if we follow yellow, then we look at the green. The green is 4th to 5th. 6th, the pink is 6th to 7th. The yellow is 7th to 8th, and so on, and 8th to 9th grade. So if you're just following it in that diagonal, you're looking at the cohort of students from what 2022 to 2023 and how they did. On this next slide, it's again cohort. So you'll notice that some of these have red asterisks. Those red asterisks are important to highlight. This slide is only focusing on meeting and exceeding. Previous slide had all of the levels meeting and exceeding. So in the first yellow diagonal, that went from 54.2% proficient to 71.4 the following year. It's a significant jump, and we can't wait to hear the why. What happened there? How did that happen? What was the good work that was being done? The group of students, was it the teacher, the approach? Those kinds of things are the questions we're looking to have answered. And the same thing again here. This class went from 31% in fourth grade of 2022 to 69% in 2023. So significant growth. This slide is again a lot of small numbers for that, but the way that it is if you look at the first row clustered, that's grade 3 students. So the same grade, but different students over the course of time. So where we were in 2016 and 2017 is the first row, 2017, 28 is your second row. And so you can kind of see where we were and where we were going and if that growth is continuing. So when you're looking at this slide, you're seeing it by grade level, grade clustered together as you move down. And then at the very bottom is all students in all grades. Okay, so now we're moving on to the math portion. Here, just keep going.
I have a quick question.
Okay.
Are you able to use software? Are principals able to use software to see this data down at the level? And are teachers able to use this data at the student level?
So I am so appreciative that the districts purchased something called Linkit, and Linkit is a data warehousing system that provides all of these reports. They create navigator reports, and part of that is professional development. Well, they'll come in and break it down right down to this teacher analysis part, but not just for state assessments, in-house benchmarks as well. And that's something we're definitely going to be working on this year, bringing in the consultants and saying, break this data down for us. Let's look at the growth. Let's look, and the software is incredible. It's very cumbersome, but it's really when you have somebody who can really help drill down, it does give you a lot of information.
Same software used by teachers with the internal benchmarks with their students, or is it different software?
So at this time, I'm still learning about the capacity of Linkit, but I can tell you that Linkit is being utilized for benchmark assessments, which is separate, and then they offer this data warehousing system. And in that, we put NJSLA scores, NJ GPA scores, F&P, the running records. Teachers can load that data in, and what that does is it creates a side-by-side picture of where the student is with that performance. So you can pull multiple data all at one point, how far the teachers had with what was taught to them, like what they were able through professional development, how deep they got into that, I'm not sure yet. But I worked with Linkit and I loved it. And so that is going to be a goal of mine moving forward, is to really utilize the warehousing piece to be able to do that data dive.
Thank you.
It also includes attendance and things of that sort. So not only getting the academic portion, but you're seeing if the student is in school and attending, it'll flag, where they are with that as well.
I have a question as well. Are there, other than the NJSLA assessments and Fountas and Pinnell assessment, are there consistent benchmarks across the elementary schools in both literacy and mathematics that the teachers are utilizing? Because I did notice you can see in one of the grade levels in grade 4, where one school seemed to outperform the other school. So I was just wondering if there are consistent benchmarks across the 4 schools. I'm sorry.
So I can tell you that in the past, working closely with the math coach and the ELA consultant, that was some of the work that they started last year, was creating those common assessments and really working towards that. Dr. V did bring in the SNAP initiative this year, so providing that common assessment and build that consistency of data. The Acadians is a universal screener that's currently used K2. We want to expand that K6. That was communicated to the teachers. Part of that is providing the professional development on how to give that assessment. So we're going to come up with a plan to figure out how are we going to do this in a meaningful way and take that. But with Acadians, you know, there's the Linkit benchmarks, like we said, that's another assessment. And then advisor in the high school also created common assessments over the summer with her staff and is working on that. And in the next steps, we're going to address how that all ties in the big picture. Okay, so moving forward, the next, the math slides are exactly the same as the ELA slides. So I'm going to move through a little quicker, if that's okay. I'll just kind of, you know, show you the data, give you a couple of seconds, and then move on. So again, here we are. These are the units. Grade 3 through 8 are 3 units, and algebra and geometry are units. The algebra 2 is a requirement, but when it was 90 minutes as well per unit. The levels of proficiency match the ELA, meaning that it's grades 1 through 5. The range changes, I believe, 799, where the range here is 790. So that's pretty much the only difference there. The ranges are a little different. Here again, you're looking at the District 8. You're looking at each level across the board. So I'm going to just kind of go ahead to the next one because the next one gives you the graphic, the graph of students meeting and exceeding. And again, although the source, you know, are not where we want them to be, you can see that we're pretty much in line with where the state is performing. So as a whole, you know, we need to address mathematics across New Jersey. So we're working on it for sure. I'm learning in meeting with the supervisors and the math coaches, all of the things that we're doing, plus the initiative. Yes.
Like grade 8% of the state.
Yes. Yes, the state is at 10% and our district is at 10%. So you're aware is you do have 8th grade students who are removed to take Algebra 1. And typically 8th graders who are taking Algebra 1 are your honor students or who are on a fast track out of that number. And so that sometimes impacts your proficiency level. And you'll see that in the cohort, it's kind of hard to do a cohort between 7th and 8th grade.
So Algebra 1 is skimming.
So that's the thing, but this Algebra 1 data has 8th grade and 9th grade. So you don't just have your honors 8th graders in that Algebra 1 data, you also have your 9th graders who are in that data as well.
Thank you.
This is the school to school, only meeting and exceeding. Again, the highlighted ones are the areas, the grade levels that performed above the state average. So that. Again, asking, you know, as the conversations, the teachers have PLC conversations and things like that, and administrators partake and help facilitate, we can maybe understand the why and how that's happening and really project that across the district. Like, this is working great, let's try this, or, you know, those kinds of things. This is the same information you saw, just in a bar graph setting. Again, Grant, Lincoln, Roosevelt, District, State. I'm going to move quickly through these just because we know that the numbers are very small to read. Again, you have your subgroup race, subgroup by race, subgroup by gender, subgroup by program, and so on. So I'm not sure, I can just give you a couple of seconds on the bar graph slides so you can see. This is by race. By gender, all students 3 through 9. And then by program, economically or IEP, special ed. Again, this slide is taking your bottom two levels and your top two levels and comparing where there was growth or decrease. So if you're looking at the pink column, if you see green, it means that the numbers in levels 1 and 2, 22 to 23, which we want. And if you're seeing green in the columns of change in levels 4 and 5, that means that our proficiency numbers got larger. Of 9%, 13%, 11%. So again, we want to know how that's happening, what's going on. And we want to start asking those questions and learning, how we got those.
If I'm following a cohort of kids, I'm going diagonal, right?
So the next cohort one. Oh, yes, on this one, and I'll have that data for you. But yes, you can do the same here. You can go in a diagonal way. And you can see your third grade was at 10%, and then when they took it in fourth grade, they were at 13%, and so on.
Okay, now I understand it.
Yes, but in the color-coded slide, it makes it a little bit easier. But yes, you're correct. And then this slide, again, is taking these pink columns and comparing. The state saw an increase and we saw an increase in some grade levels. So we just want to keep working toward that. And this is the cohort slide. You'll notice grades 8, Algebra 1 and geometry. You can't really follow a cohort. As I said before, when you're going from 7th to 8th grade, you're not dealing with the same group of students anymore because some of those students were removed and put into algebra. And then when you're going from algebra to geometry, you're not comparing the same standards. It's algebra standards and geometry standards. So the cohort, if you could be stronger in geometry than you are in algebra, and it has no bearing on the standards themselves. So that's why there's no cohort there. But if you follow, like you were saying, Dr. Martinez, the yellow is your 3rd to 4th in all levels, your 4th to 5th, and so on. And then the next slide is the cohort by school. And again, the red asterisks are showing you where there was growth. So in one instance in 5th grade, 25% in 2022 to 61% in 6th grade in that one school. Now, again, there can be a number of reasons why that happened. Class size, the teacher, whatever it might be. I don't have those answers yet. But as we dig through the data, maybe we can figure out, what was the amazing things that occurred there to show such growth like that.
Not to nerd out too much here, but how much can one kid affect those scores?
So it depends. If you have a class size of 12 or, the schools are different. 12 kids, 2 don't pass it, your impact is greater versus if you have 25 and 2. So your numbers can be impacted that way and not have a significant impact on the scores. And again, this is same cluster, clustered by same grade, different students across the years. SLA Science is a little different NJ, SLA Math and ELA. Science is given to students in grades 5, 8, and 11. Just so you know, in grades K through 5 are end of year mastery. So each grade level gets their own set of standards. They scaffold upon each other by grade level. When you get into 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, they're by grade. So that the teachers, the district has see fit. So in some instances, we no longer do this way. 6th grade, and then space was, or whatever, another science was taught in another grade level. So if you learned something in 6th, you didn't touch it until you hit the 8th grade assessment. And so we learned that it was better to scaffold and teach all of the domains of science 6 through 8, but the same can be said in the high school. You have your chemistry and your biology and your physics, but depending on when you're getting it, it's a summary of all of those standards over time. And so that our scores being a little, you'll see the science is always definitely a little lower than the rest. So, and we just kind of touched on all of this. Each max that you can give are 2 units a day. You can't go beyond that. So over the course of 2 days or over the course of 4 days, you can take this assessment depending on how school districts schedule it. In NJSLA, proficiency levels range from 1 to 4 rather than 1 to 5, 1 being below, proficient, and 4 is your advanced. Ranges are definitely different, up to 800, plus here it's at 300. And again, this is structured the same way. Here you're looking at districts in 4 levels. The next is to view a visualization. So these numbers are across the board really low, so that some background knowledge about NJSLA is that we had 1 year where we piloted it right before COVID occurred. And so it was a pilot year, it didn't count, and the information was very limited. Then we got back to it and, there's no testing in between. Now we have about 2 years of data, but when you think about to you for math, you can impact change versus the data that's being and released test items and things like that. It's not as rich and as deep as math and ELA. So across the board, we really struggle with how to build that so you see it's a problem across New Jersey. The numbers are really, really low. And so we just have to figure out a way on how we're going to address that. And we talk about that in the next steps. This is elementary school to elementary school. You only have 8 that you're comparing. We're pretty much in line with where the this is the same information in Lincoln Roosevelt District State. These are the demographic slides. So if you're okay, I'm just going to kind of go ahead. The bars, all students. And by all students, these are students in grades 3, 5, and 8, not all students 3 through 9. 5, 8, and 11. I apologize for that. 5, 8, and 11. This is by gender. This is by program. And then with the comparison, you cannot do a cohort with the NJSLA science because to 8th, you can't really follow those students over 2 year span. But you can see we had some growth in 8th grade in both minimizing the numbers of students who are falling in levels 1 and 2, and some growth in the number of expectations. And this is in comparison to the state. So even though the state saw some increase, again, it's such a small percentage, it's hard to gauge how much of it is. Okay, so I can hold this. So next steps, I feel like this is repeat, which is important that we keep repeating what we're doing because it really gives purpose and meaning to how it all connects. So some of our goals for all content areas is the district and school leaders are going to engage in learning walks. And in those learning walks, they're not to be evaluative or anything other than let's look together. Let's have look-fors. What are we looking for? What do we want to see happening in the classrooms? Coming in from what we see developing action. We see this is really good. We need seeing that we need support in this area and really just following through, right? The same can be said with the 3-part objectives. We're really asking teachers to think about what they're teaching, think about how they're teaching it, and how do they measure that success, but making sure that it's tied to the standards. New Jersey NJSLA student learning assessment that's tied to the standards. So if you're teaching the standards throughout the year, you're essentially preparing the students for the assessment without that test prep. So by really providing that critical feedback and lesson plan, saying, hey, I see your objective. How is this, what standard is this aligned to? How are you addressing not students met that expectation? And then what are you doing with that information is going to be tremendous in the future with board. With that is the I can statements. So This is the objective and this is what it looks like for a student. I can multiply using an array. I can recognize triangles by identifying shapes in front of me, by pulling the triangles in a kindergarten level, things of that sort. The universal screeners, we had talked about that. It's super important because it's a quick way to get students who are falling below benchmark. It gives us multi-data points. And with that, then we can determine eligibility criteria that we need to address student needs based on what the screeners are telling us. Targeted in the math coach and the literacy consultant began standards-based report cards last school year, working with the teachers in creating those indicators. Standards-based report cards are just that. They're report cards with skill sets tied to the standards. So if you're teaching the standards, you should be able to assess what you're teaching and then report out on that. Standards-based report cards are not A, B, C, D. There's no letter grade to standards-based reporting because it's on a continuum of growth, right? So you can be meeting expectations early on in the school year based on where you are in those learning standards. And then maybe later on, those standards become a little more complex. So now you're not doing it with consistency, but then back at the end of the year, you're doing it consistently. So really understanding what you're looking for and how those are tied to the standards. It's about SNAP initiative, focusing in on growth. I think my mic is getting tired. Grows and grows and being mindful of using a rubric that's tied to SLA expectations. And what we're doing is we're saying, you know, we're not saying the test is the end all be all, but what we were told is this test is to measure student proficiency with their learning standards, the expectations of what they should know by the end of the school year. So if we're assessing the learning standards daily, we should be automatically assisting in that student proficiency. We also have this initiative in the math with the open-ended constructed responses where teachers are posing a question and then they're meeting with students individually and say this really well. I want you to work on this in the future and then revisiting it, not just like a one and done. We're going to engage in those PLCs. And one of the things that we said is as you're engaging in conversation about data and data analysis, you begin to ask questions. And when you ask questions, you dig a little deeper, you find the answers, and then those answers can help across the board, right? This is an excellent resource. That's what I used to teach and my students got it. And I need to rethink my pacing, and that's why they missed it. So as we talk about data and creating those common assessments, so we're comparing apples to apples rather apples, it changes the conversations and changes how we're teaching students. The universal screeners, I think I may have put that on there twice, so I apologize. Streamlining IRNS, when we talk about tier 1 support, that's what's happening in the classroom for all students, not just some, but all. So if you have multilingual learners in a gen ed setting, they are part of your tier 1. So as a teacher, you're working towards differentiating your instruction, targeting the modifications that you need to put in place for work what you need to help those students understand the material you're presenting. Which is going to be tremendous in providing families with things that they can do at home that match or mirror what we're doing in school, getting those conversations. Integration, if they're shut down with whatever it is that might be going on at home or things if they're upset. So it's important recognizing where the child's at in the classroom. Are they capable of learning based on their mood, based on whatever's happening? And so not just saying, well, you know, let's let that go, but really working with the guidance counselors and working with the nurse or whoever to say, this child's coming in and shutting down every day. What can I do so that when I'm teaching, they're engaged in the learning and not just dealing with whatever it is that they might be dealing with outside of school. Our world language and ESL supervisor did a great job at bringing in shelter. It's just the button, my finger must come off. Yeah. So what happens with that is it's basic teacher strategies to meet the needs of their multilingual learners, like pre-teach the vocabulary, provide visuals. Instead of giving long-winded sentences, break it down, give short, very targeted sentences with those visuals. So the piece is tied back to the learning walks. If this was the professional development that was given, are we seeing it happening in the classroom? So that accountability piece. For ELA, we have reading diagnostics. So as right now it's K2, we want to bring it K6. Heggerty is a phonemic program that works with the auditory sound, so sound manipulation for students in grades K2. Reading or Heggerty is breaking down sound manipulation, so it's really important. The district's Sunday phonics program, so the goal is to have our interventionist, because it can be used as an intervention program. Our interventionist, our special ed, our ESL teachers all trained in that so that they could provide a tier 2 or tier 3 support. Our younger grades, because the belief is if you fix the foundation, if you're young, you're going to see the growth. K3 and build the strong foundation. So as they move through, they have what they need to be successful. 3-6, we're going to do the small group instruction and their tiered interventions if they need it. They'll do guided reading. And 7-12, continue to partner, bring down that the supervisor of our ELA and social studies to work with the ELA consultant or our math coach and our math supervisor work together today in one room talking about the continuum. So those conversations are really important in streamlining what's happening. For math, we're going to continue to review the curriculum and the pacing guides. We're going to create those common assessments. We're going to engage in professional learning communities. We're going to create that block time to focus on additional skills for 7. The math coach development, she's in those classes working with those teachers, modeling lessons, providing best practices, showing them what small group instruction, how it's effective and things of that sort. The teachers are, as part of the SNAP initiative, they're also building math fluency and for accuracy. So they might be doing addition fluency, subtraction fluency, and so on. The manipulatives, the district purchased manipulatives for every student. That was tremendous. It becomes hands-on learning. It's no longer just that visual, but it's conceptual, and students can manipulate manipulatives to count or to understand the concepts behind math. Incorporate those 21st century life and career standards and the math practices, and then the Conquer math for this year, and hopefully next year we'll continue with the 5, 6. And then for science, it's working on those curriculum revisions and adjustments for the sequence and to the instruction. The science consultant is coming in. Part of what she's doing, as the message has been, let's go back to the basics. And back to the basics means maybe we need to unpack the science standards, gain a deeper understanding of what it is that we're teaching. A new resource was purchased this year, a core resource for science teachers in grades K through 6, so really utilizing that resource and its alignment to the standards, and to provide professional inquiry-based instruction. So students asking questions to really drive for the next. We have reached the end.
Well,
Thank you very much for that thorough and comprehensive explanation. It's very good.
thank you, Ms. Triglia, for that very detailed, clear presentation that you skillfully presented, understanding that this is a lot of data to unpack. We appreciate your efforts in doing so this evening. To be clear, the administration views this data and test results as a snapshot, right? It's not the only data that we utilize to monitor student performance. But with that being said, I think one can conclude that urgent action is required, which is the very reason why this administration has been rolling out some structures and processes in collaboration with our principals who have been really great in embracing this and learning with us as we move forward, in addition to our teaching staff who has been willing to begin to implement this as a result of the professional development that we provided. So as an organization, I thank everyone for their efforts. Still much to be done, but again, the urgency is clear, and moving forward with these processes is critical at this time. So having said, happy to open it up to President Martinez and the board in terms of any questions they have on this.
I'd just like to comment that the word urgency is something that we have not heard with regards to test scores, and I agree that this is a shot, they're at the end all be all. But I'm very happy to hear that you are acting with urgency, because I do believe that there's work to be done. And I just think from a parent perspective and from a Board of Education member, I'm happy to see and support the urgency that you're bringing forth to the district. So thank you for that.
I'd like to echo that and promise the board support on any PD or any type of equipment or anything that you need to get this done. Thank you.
Well, I want to add something also, just you could see the support coming behind Dr. V and his team by having all of our building principals here. Thank you for giving your time and top of a long day that you had already for being here. It does show your support. Thank you.
It was one principal to another, I guess.
That's correct.
I echo that, Trustee Cooney.
All right, we're going to move now to the State Monitor's Report. Mr. Egan?
Good evening. Basically, we're still trying to, we haven't totally recovered from the vacuum that was created in the administration when so many key people left. We have rebounded from that, though, and we're moving in the right direction. But there's still some blips that come up, and one of them is that, which I explained to the board in private session, is that to complete my reports to the public, and we have to finish the audit by the our certified public accountants to come in and certify where we are financially. My assessment of it, and I can make mistakes, but my assessment of it is we're in very, very good shape as far as the finances are concerned. There's some other administrative things that we have to still take care of, but we are definitely moving in the right direction. And as I explained to the board, I will prepare a, well, how can I call this? An exit plan where, because I am confident of where this district is heading. The exit plan would be for me to exit, but I can't definitively say that until I get this last audit report, which hopefully the audit will start soon. But other than that, I can say we have enough money. All the bills are going to be paid. We're definitely not going into a further deficit. And I personally think that the district is moving in the right direction. So ends my report.
Thank you, Mr. Egan. And once you exit, feel free to come back and visit.
Absolutely. Thank you.
I'd like to request a motion to read into the record new business so as to allow the public the opportunity to comment on these items. Mr. Bicek, I hate to put you on the spot, but can you read into the record the new job description? Oh, I need the motion first. I'm sorry.
Make a motion.
I'll second.
Roll call. Can I have a roll call, please?
Yes. Mr. Cathcart,
Yes.
Mr. Cooney,
Yes.
Ms. Kraft,
Yes.
Mr. Phytros. Mr. Gomes.
Yes.
Ms. McNeil.
Yes.
Ms. Velez.
Yes.
Ms. Orth.
Yes.
President Martinez.
Yes. Resolution passes. Mr. Bicek, can you please read into the record the new job description and the other items?
Yes, category is 16, new business, faculty and programs. The subject is 16.01, labeled job description. Resolved that the Board of Education, on a recommendation of Superintendent of Schools, approve the job description for the district's operation manager. Category 17, new business personnel. Subject 17.1, employment teacher leave replacement. Resolved that the Board of Education, on a recommendation of Superintendent of Schools, approves the appointment of Miss Rebecca Zambrano to the position of fifth grade elementary teacher leave replacement in the Ridgefield Park School District for the 23-24 school year. Ms. Zambrano will be placed on Step 1 BA and receive a salary of $65,286 prorated, effective upon receipt of required onboarding documentation through June 30th, 2024. Under new business, category 17, personnel, subject is 17.02, employment teacher assistant. Resolved that the Board of Education, on a recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, approves the appointment of Miss Kiara Acosta to the position of teacher assistant in the Ridgefield Park School District for the 23-24 school year. Ms. Acosta will receive a salary of $27,375 prorated, effective October 20th, 2023 through June 30th, 2024.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bicek. We will now listen to citizens' comments on agenda. Trustee Velez, could you please read the rules?
For tonight's meeting, there will be two public comment sessions, one on agenda and one off agenda item. There is a sign-up sheet on the podium. We will call your name in the order that you sign in. Each member of the public will have 5 minutes to speak during each comment period. Time cannot be transferred to individuals. The public comment period will be 1 hour for on-agenda items and 1 hour for non-agenda items. The board will now entertain public comments. Please remember to state your name, Ridgefield Park mailing address, and keep your comments brief to allow sufficient time for the other members of the public to speak if they wish. Thank you for your cooperation and support.
Thank you, Trustee Velez. Ms. Susan DeSantis?
It's not gonna cooperate. Okay. 15 Homestead Place. Resolution 1311. I'd like to know, does this person know anybody in the district? Is related to them, know them in any way, shape, or form? I'd like to know if this person is special ed certified and ELA. I have a concern because this person was in Little Ferry, Fort Lee, Clifton. And why are they leaving a tenured position to come here? And Resolution 1601. You said the positions are going to be eliminated. I'd like to know what they are. And I'd like to be able to say something about the positions that are being eliminated, if they're what they look like they're being eliminated. So it kind of like an answer.
think we answer the positions that will be eliminated. That's your comments would be off agenda as to those positions. If that detail is going to be released today, I'm sorry. So your comments on those two positions, since they're not on the agenda, would be comments off agenda item?
Okay. Um,
Thank you, Mr. Santos. Mr. DeSantis? Good evening, sir.
Good evening, everybody. At DeSantis 15 Homestead Place. Resolution 10, I just turned the page here, so forgive me. 10.10 Perkins Grant. What would be the reason we're going to turn down grant money? 1110, yes, thank you.
Sorry, what was your question?
What would be the reason we're going to turn down almost 23,000 in grant money?
Okay. We're writing down the questions, yes.
I mean,
Yep.
I want to know if, is this for PD for teachers? Is it some kind of enrichment program? I know we're in good financial shape, but $23,000. So I'd like to know. Thank you. My other question, and I think you said we're going to address most of it off agenda, is 1601. I know this is job description, and I know with my experience with county superintendents, they approve the writing and the legalities and the breadth of the contract for new positions. They don't necessarily approve the position. As a matter of fact, I think the state monitor has bumping rights over the county superintendent when it comes to hiring. So my question being that our assistant BA has a full-time job. We would agree, it's a full-time job. And our technology supervisor has a full-time job and then some. And we have a facilities manager who has way more than a full-time job. And this position seems to take all three and merge them into something. And from what I can gather now, somebody's getting the hatchet. There's victim here that's going to be gone, at least one. So how do we expect Superman or Wonder Woman, whoever it is, to possibly fill three jobs that are being done by three competent long-term people? Because it's a little bit obvious who the people might be. And how is that going to be done efficiency? $200,000 or not. I mean, we spend money, it's blowing all over the place. Legal fees all over, suits, everything. But we're going to save $200,000 by condensing. Maybe between them, they work 150 hours a week and someone's going to do that. Do they have the certifications? Will they be able to supervise the custodians? Will it have effect on the custodians? Will it have effect on the technology department? Or will they take the next year just trying to figure out what all these people do? Now, I'm all for moving forward and coming up with a good plan. A good plan. And in this case, I don't think it's a good plan. Not at all. Now, I mean, I'm not directing at any one board member. You know, some board members have different feelings. I'm talking to the board on a whole. This makes no sense. And it's got to make sense. If it doesn't make sense, how can you vote on it? You're almost expecting the impossible and then the impossible to fail. Of course, there's always a chance that there will be perception it's succeeding. Perception's a dangerous thing. I would hope that this resolution does not pass, because I don't think we could possibly hire somebody who could possibly do all that to the effectiveness of our prior assistant BAs, technology people, and facilities coordinator, and have all the licenses and everything else to go with it. This is a jump that is not required, not needed, and in the scope of the way, the size of our budget, I hate to say this, but $200,000 is not as much money as the damage it could do. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. DeSantis. Ms. Gottlieb?
Hi, okay. All right, first question, okay, Leslie Gottlieb, 464A Liberty Street, apartment 102. Just trying to figure out what's going on between 1111 and 1112. Because unfortunately, the attachments, you guys don't print out, and I'm still having trouble reading them on the phone. You know, all the PDFs are linked here, but you don't have a hard copy. And that, I think, was my one question on agenda, was just what's going on between 1111 and 1112. I think everybody else covered the ones I had. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Gottlieb. Jennifer Schmidt? You rescinded. You good? I'm sorry. John Malou wants to speak. Go ahead. Address, please, sir.
Good evening. John Malul, 163 East Grand Avenue. This is probably going to be the first time ever I've ever agreed with Ed DeSantis. I am somewhat concerned about Resolution 16.01 and the sanity behind this. We are taking three very important people and combining them into one. God knows that each of those positions requires a tremendous amount of time and effort. I don't see how any one individual could ever do that one job or do it effectively. So I would strongly urge you to think more about that before you pass it. The other question that I have deals with Resolution 1311. 1311 hires an individual at the BA step 16. It seems to me that if you wanted to save money, you would never A, hire somebody at such a high position, and B, I doubt very much that you could say that there's nobody in-house, not one of our present educators, that could take that position and not have us hiring an individual. And I have no idea who this individual is. If they walked in the door right now, I wouldn't know them. But to me, hiring a position or an individual at a position at the 16th step is somewhat ludicrous. I certainly wish that I had had that opportunity when I was a teacher to be hired at that position or at that step. So I strongly urge you to reconsider the stepping of that individual or the hiring of that individual at the 16th step. And I would please like you to reconsider the job description resolution 1601, because I don't think that it's possible for any one individual to do that job. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Do we have anyone to elevate?
Hi, good evening, Maria Escobar, 80 Orchard Street. I have a question if the superintendent can expand a little bit on, he mentioned something, I don't have the agenda in front of me, but he mentioned something in regards to new hires that are going to be dealing with the schools or something in regards to the social emotional learning. Can he explain that a little bit more? Sorry. Just went really quickly. And I didn't comprehend exactly what was happening with that.
We wrote down your question will be answered. Do you have any other questions?
Well, once that question is answered, my question is, are you going to go through a specific, what's going to be the plan of action? Are you going through an agency? What are they going to be teaching the kids? I just kind of know what route they're taking that with.
Thank you. So the superintendent's nodding to me that he will answer that in depth.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
You do as well. Thank you.
No one else to elevate? Okay, I guess we will close public comments on agenda. And Dr. Vespignani will respond to some of the questions.
Thank you, President Martinez. Happy to do so to provide some clarity on some of our questions from our community, and thank you for those questions. As always, we appreciate our community being involved in the daily operations of our schools. First, to address the Perkins grant, the deadline to process that grant was June 30th, which clearly was prior to my time, Mr. Bostic's time, and Ms. Triglia's time. So whereas I wouldn't be able to clearly comment as to why that wasn't completed prior to June 30th, I can tell you that Mr. Bosick and I did take a phone call with the county office in terms of what that application process looks like, and made it clear that we are intent to ensure that in the upcoming school year, we do so. In terms of 1601, we've heard from 3 community members in terms of requests for some additional information. I'm happy to provide that. So the district operations manager, first, you should know there are many districts that we've researched that have this position and have utilized it effectively. We've looked at various districts of different sizes, of different structures, charter schools, whereas this is a job title that not all districts have. In regard to county superintendent approval, it does require that approval in order to effectively move it forward on a board agenda, and that approval has been granted, which is the appropriate steps. In terms of the oversight and the structure specifically, and as I mentioned in my comments, this would have some dealings with business operations. To be clear, we currently do not have an assistant business administrator. For the past several months, we've been able to, Mr. Bisick and his team have been able to steer that ship effectively. Nonetheless, there is a good amount of work to be done. But looking at the support staff in that department, as well as the other 2 departments that I had commented on, we feel strongly that collectively, this position will be able to maintain that oversight. To be specific, I had indicated that this position would have oversight of facilities and technology. As a result, the directors of those programs, provided that the board approves the job description this evening, and we have our interview process over the course of the next month or so and make a recommendation on November 15th. There would be a recommendation to the board to reduce those positions. I, again, always welcome public comment in terms of your perspectives. My perspective is that streamlining administrative efficiency and reducing administrative positions in order to effectively establish immediately positions and programs in terms of mental health and substance abuse and social emotional learning for our students is an important one. And if there's disagreement with that, I respect that. It just happens to be not my perspective. So that's the goal here, to be clear, in terms of efficiency, restructuring, in terms of what this district operation manager would have oversight of, and then immediately to develop these positions and programs. To Ms. Escobar's comment in terms of what that would look like, again, as I had indicated, I'm in conversations with our administrative team, but I can tell you I've been researching what other districts are doing in terms of the ideal SEL model. Examples of that would be potentially a K-12 student assistance coordinator, commonly referred to as a SAC. We're looking at the ideal tandem with that position. Again, there's various structures in terms of establishing a wellness center, a safe space for our students to go to when they are in need. Looking at opportunities in terms of oversight of programs and attendance. So whereas we've engaged in some initial conversations, a more detailed report will be presented at the November 15th board meeting, provided that the district operation manager position moves forward. In terms of the position listed at 1311, to be clear, this is two positions in one, and which is permissible by way of the state and the pre-K universal program because of the ratio that we have. In other words, we are entitled from the state regulation standpoint to have a combined position of the preschool instructional coach and the preschool intervention and referral specialist, commonly referred to as PERS. We can combine those positions because we have under 10 classrooms. So provided that we have under 10 classrooms, I can tell you in many districts, they actually have two positions, in which case they are paying two different employees, inclusive of total compensation, benefits, and things of that nature. So here it's permissible to combine these positions because of the ratio that we have. And I would also note that this was a position that realistically should have been established from the launch of this program. Because it was not, we are now picking up the pieces. And as a result, hiring in October has its challenges. But we are very pleased to be making this recommendation. It is a qualified candidate. We had a very thorough interview process led by Ms. Triglia and some of her team members. The directors participated in that, so they had some voice in that. And by directors, I mean of our pre-K sites. So we feel very confident and very fortunate to have this candidate to recommend to the board. In terms of the question from Ms. Gottlieb with the nursing services, the item here was that we are recommending a rescission to the one nursing agency because they could not provide a nurse. Subsequently, we are recommending another nursing services agency to be able to do so. In terms of the agenda and access to that, whereas we are providing hard copies at the board meeting for those who join, we are posting the link to board docs. The whole idea behind board docs and why districts use that is because it's easily accessible by way of a link, in which case community members, staff members can easily access that within the details of that link and accessing all the attachments within. Thank you. And that concludes my response to those questions.
Thank you for those answers. We'll now move to our agenda items. Steve Kraft, can you please move faculty and programs, including 1601?
I make a motion to move FP 901 and 908 through 908.
Second.
Wait, I'm not done, Mr. Cathcart.
Oh, okay.
In addition, I make a motion to move 1601.
Now I'll second it.
Any questions? From the board? The only question I'll have is I'll put it on the radar that with those SEL positions that you are, or SEL programming that you're planning to expand, the public has also many times said that they need help or that we need help at the middle school level. So whatever extra focus can be played in that part would be nice.
Thank you. And absolutely, we're not only looking at 7-12, but some K-12 positions as well.
Thank you. Can I have a roll call?
Yes. Mr. Cathcart,
Yes.
Mr. Cooney,
Yes.
Ms. Kraft,
Yes.
Mr. Phytros, Mr. Gomes,
Yes.
Ms. McNeil,
Yes.
Ms. Velez,
Yes.
Ms. Orth,
Yes.
President Martinez.
Yes. We have quorum? I mean, the resolution passes, sorry. Trustee Cooney, can you please move buildings and grounds?
Sure. Excuse me. Buildings and Grounds Resolution 10.01 through 10.02. I so move.
I'll second.
Any questions or comments from the board? Seeing none, can I have a roll call?
Yes. Mr. Cathcart,
Yes.
Mr. Cooney,
Yes.
Ms. Kraft,
Yes.
Mr. Phytros, Mr. Gomes,
Yes.
Ms. McNeil,
Yes.
Ms. Velez,
Yes.
Ms. Orth,
Yes.
President Martinez.
Yes. Resolution passes. Trustee Gomes, can you please move finance and insurance?
I move FI 1101 to 1117.
Second.
And at 18?
Is it 18 or 17? I had 18. It's 18. Can we move it again?
I move FI 1101 to 1118.
I'll second that.
Can I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Cathcart,
Yes on all, but I'll be an abstention on 1101.
Mr. Cooney,
Yes.
Ms. Kraft,
Yes.
Mr. Phytros, Mr. Gomes,
Yes.
Ms. McNeil,
Yes.
Ms. Velez,
Yes.
Ms. Orth,
Yes.
President Martinez.
Yes, the resolution passes. Trustee Velez, can you please move consent agenda?
I so move consent agenda 12.02.
I second it.
Actually, 01.
01.
Second.
Thank you. Do you have any questions on that one? Can I have a roll call, please?
Yes. Mr. Cathcart,
Yes.
Mr. Cooney,
Yes.
Ms. Kraft,
Yes.
Mr. Phytros, Mr. Gomes,
Yes.
Ms. McNeil,
Yes.
Ms. Velez,
Yes.
Ms. Orth,
Yes.
President Martinez.
Yes, and the resolution passes. Trustee Orth, can you please move personnel, including 1701 and 1702?
I so move 1301 to 1311 plus 1701 and 1702.
I second it.
Any questions from the board or comments on the board on those items? Okay, can I have a roll call, please?
Yes. Mr. Cathcart,
Yes.
Mr. Cooney,
Yes.
Ms. Kraft,
Yes.
Mr. Phytros. Noted. Mr. Gomes,
Yes.
Ms. McNeil,
Yes.
Ms. Velez,
Yes.
Ms. Orth,
Yes.
President Martinez.
Yes, and the resolution passes. We will now move to citizens' comments off agenda. Again, I would like to ask that we keep to the generous 5-minute limit and respect the board's attempt to stay out of trouble by being more mindful and deliberate in addressing your concerns. Ms. Gottlieb?
Leslie Gottlieb, 464A Liberty Street, apartment 102, Little Ferry. I'm just curious how the district is handling things in regard to what's been going on in the Gaza Strip. Was anything sent out? Have there been any issues in the school? You know, that's my question. How is it being handled?
Thank you, Ms. Gottlieb. Ms. DeSantis?
Well, first, you didn't answer my question if that person was related to or knows anybody in the district. That was ignored.
That's a personnel question.
Huh?
That's a question about a specific personnel individual.
It's a personal question if somebody is related to or knows somebody in the
That's a question
district
about an
that got a
employee or
job
or
through
a
them.
potential employee. Yeah, I think so.
Come on, we've been asking that for a long time. And it's not that personal. As with the assistant superintendent, was the county superintendent approved the position? Or did they, he just was told by the monitor that this position was going to happen, so he just approved the contract as he was required to do? Now, back to district operations manager. Is this person going to be a certified educational facilities manager as required by the law? From Rutgers University, how is this person going to personally fulfill the requirements of the job? Are they going to do asbestos management, indoor air quality, chemical hygiene, pest management, the right to know, AHARA coordination? Order the laptops, program the laptops, the hardware, the onboarding, the fobs, the running the system, doing the repairs that they run around all day doing, the security cameras, the cyber software, the programming of the laptops. Are they going to get in the water system when the sewer backs up? Are they going to unplug the toilets and do the plumbing and fix ceilings and all the things that the maintenance does, not the custodians? That's not their job. That's what the maintenance person does. Coming at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning when there's problems. You're talking about somebody that's been here for over 25 years, and that man has done everything in this district, from fixing floors to fixing ceilings, up on ladders, running all over this district. I'd like to know that person's going to do that plus part of a BA's job. And how's that person, the other person, that person going to be running all over this district from building to building to building when a computer's down and needs some kind of something that goes on all day long? These people are busy, busy, busy. And you're going to get rid of long-term employees that do these jobs that this person cannot do. There's nobody that's going to be able to do both those jobs plus that job. And if we're talking about a third person that has to do with security, you're not going to be able to do his job either. This is just what I consider punitive and retribution because of what Mr. Egan said a month ago about somebody or administrators getting the BA that didn't come, which was totally off base and totally untrue. And this to me is punitive because all of a sudden they've disappeared from the board meetings too. It's pretty obvious what's going on. And I think that you're going to have more lawsuits. This is ridiculous. How long is this going to go on? That's it.
Thank you, Mr. DeSantis. Mr. DeSantis? Thank you, sir. Ms. Malou?
Hi, Janet Malul, 163 East Grand. Kind of just quickly piggybacking on what was said, I'm getting the impression, and I've missed a meeting or two, that there's a new regime. And we have a new superintendent, we have a new BA, we're getting all these other extraneous people coming in to do the jobs that we had, I believe, qualified people within our district to do. And it worries me that we are going backwards instead of forwards. That's my personal opinion. But here's why I'm really up here. US News and World Report ranked high schools recently. And we are ranking 222nd in the state. We're coming in at AP participation rate at 27%. Talks about minority enrollment. Let me get to the next page of the one I really want to talk about. Okay, our scorecard had us 27% taking at least one AP exam, 15% passing at least one AP exam. Math proficiency is down at 27%. Reading proficiency is down at 57%. Science proficiency is 16%, yet we have a graduation rate of 92%. Can someone explain to me how that happens? How are we graduating all these students when we don't even hit 50% across the board? It's a real concern that we are graduating children from this district that are not prepared, forget about going to college, but prepared even to function in our society. And I would like to know if anyone saw this, number one, and if there's been any discussion on this. Because I looked at that and I said, this is pretty scary. And it's not very different than what's been shown the past couple of times that it has been, discussed. But, I'm just, but I expected to see like maybe 75% or 60, 65, 75% of a graduation rate. But at 92, I have to question, if you've only got 27% proficiency in math, are we just basing it on can they read and sign their names and write a paragraph? Because that's insane, in my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Malou. Would you like to?
Thank you again for your public comments to our community members. In regard to Ms. Gottlieb's question, if anything has been sent out, yes, on October 11th, I had disseminated a letter to our families in regard to worldwide events, making it clear that our school counselors are always available in the event that our students are presenting need to have an adult to speak with within the school. I collaborated with some other local superintendents in terms of the messaging, and that letter was developed in such collaboration. In terms of the oversight of the director, the district operations manager, again, to echo what I had shared, this position will maintain the responsibilities of the technology and facilities department in terms of the certification that's required The certification that was named is not a requirement because this is not a director of facilities position. Rather, it is a district operations manager. With that being said, districts do have a year for that individual to pursue that certificate. But again, that is not a requirement for this particular job description. In terms of rankings, thank you for sharing that information. At our last September 20th board meeting, I did comment on some rankings, and my perspective on rankings are that I always take them with a grain of salt because rankings vary, metrics vary depending on the criteria that goes into that. With that being said, I agree, and I'm not sure if all those in the audience were present for Ms. Triglia's presentation. If you were not, I encourage you to read it when it's posted online. But as I had shared earlier, there is certainly some urgency here to begin to tackle some of those student performance concerns that we share, as stated from our community members. Thank you.
Actually have somebody to elevate. My mistake.
Maria Escobar, 80 Orchard Street. I was wondering when the sign for Grant School is going to be put up outside in front of the school. Do we have a date on that?
Hold on one second, they're talking.
Okay, thank you. It's been down for quite some time, so I was just wondering if it was being changed or what's happening with that.
Do you have any other questions?
Nope, that'll be all.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Have a good night.
You too.
Thank you for that question. In regard to the digital signs that are being put in, not unique to Grant, but also, for example, at Lincoln, currently the development is at the Lincoln Elementary School, and next on the docket would be Grant. No specific timeline, but certainly this is something that is moving forward.
I'd like to make a brief statement. Ms. Malul, I share your concerns. I think the entire board shares your concerns. We might disagree about which direction this board should go in terms of addressing those concerns, but I would add other stats to that, to what you said. We pay above average taxes in Richfield Park, above state average taxes, and our kids are underperforming. And it's not because we have bad parents, it's not because we have bad teachers, right? And so the leadership starts here, and so the changes that you see on the board, the tone that we're taking, the support that we're offering the teachers and the entire district, like this board is not saying no to anything that's going to help a teacher do their job or an administrator do their job. And so change is difficult. Nobody on here takes this lightly. Nobody up here is laughing or anything like that. But change is very important, and we can't go backwards. For as long as I'm on the board, I'm going to keep pushing, as I always have, to keep the board moving forward. And I think right now you have a unified board that is, and there are people on this board who I have not agreed with, that I've had many, many fights with. The board right now is unified and pushing the district forward. So I share your concerns. I have even more concerns. I still have a kid in the district, and I have friends who have little kids in the district, and I plan to stay in this district. So I echo all your concerns, and any decision that you see up here, when you see this board voting the way they do, it's vetted, it's been questioned. I'm almost tired of hearing the answers to the questions that were given today, because it has been vetted. So I appreciate your comments. I appreciate you coming to the board, but we are not out of sync here, except with what to do about the problems here. I'm going to close. I need a motion to close. I'm gonna close public comments, and I'm gonna motion to close the meeting.
I make a motion, we adjourn.
A second.
Thank you to everybody online. Thank you to the House staff.